Psalms 85:11. Truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. And that truth being many of the relics that were left behind that prove that history as we know it has been whitewashed and lied about. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Wakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen that look like those heathen. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And I was trying to get the name of the video in focus, because when you just put in More Sicily, this video will not pop up. You know, Esau really tried to bury this one, so you had to actually put in the Mujahid training in natural sciences, and then you can find it that way. But if you put in More Sicily, they're going to show you a bunch of Arabs and all that kind of stuff. Look, Ishmael was not, you have the city of Morocco, but that's not talking about Ishmaelites. It's not talking about all the people that live there today, or the admixture. The Moor is a German word which means black or swarthy. Okay, let's get that, get that out the way, out the gate. But I'm going to play some of this video, and you can see it says the Jews of Khazaria. The evidence is out, man. Hence the reason why they're trying to get rid of TikTok, about who the Israelites are. And then, and then this book, I can't get enough of this book. It just outright tells you that the Ashkenazi stole the heritage of the Sephardim. The converts of Khazaria just basically begin to claim falsified DNA and everything to protect that lie. That, that they're Sephardim, and the Sephardim were your Morenos, your Palatine Boers, as Ben Franklin called them. Your Moors, your Morenos, your Moriscos, your Sephardim. William Shakespeare, referred to as the Black Jew Boy. All the history is coming out. All the truth is coming out. All right, that all history, after the Renaissance was whitewashed. They whitewashed the Dark Ages. They whitewashed medieval times. All right. White men were not in rulership. So self-proclaimed white men, they call themselves that. They were never called that in the past. They were not the rulers during the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th century, 12th century. They start coming back into power in the 13th century, late 13th century. And came back into power in 1492 when Portugal and Spain fell, and eventually the rest of Europe or Western Asia, fell to them, and they took back over after the fall of Rome. Okay, because they had that part of the world during the time from Alexander, the Amalekite, the Edomite, Alexander the Great, when he took over all of Western Asia, Eurasia, and and whitewashed it during the time of the Greeks and the Romans, when he stole their heritage and was calling himself by their names. So this video is only 4 minutes long, so I'm gonna let it play, and I'll interject every now and then and bring in some scripture or point out some history, correct a few things. But let's let them speak.
Of my own Moorish roots. On both sides of my family, as a matter of fact, it was 2002. I made my.
So he said he has Moorish bloodline on both sides of his family, both his mother and father's. So if that be the case, chances are pretty likely that this guy is actually one of those scattered Israelites, even though he's claiming Ashkenazi. All right. Remember, even among the Jewish people, all right, are going to be found Israelites. The Israelites got scattered among all people. Let's get a scripture, and we'll let the video play. I'll just get one, my favorite. You got one in Tobit and one in Baruch. But whichever one comes, well, Tobit was first. I think it's 13 and 5 or 8. The 13 and 5. This is Tobit 13 and 5, and it reads, confess him. I started 13 just for more understanding. Verse 1. Then Tobit wrote a prayer of rejoicing and said, blessed be the God that liveth forever, and blessed be his kingdom. For he doth scourge and have mercy. He leadeth down to hell, proving that hell is a condition, and bringeth up again. Neither is there any that can avoid his hand. Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he has scattered us among them. All right, so the Israelites are scattered among all the heathen, and many of the Israelites are going to look like those heathen that they're scattered among, point blank, period. If you disagree, you're wrong. Shut up. Take notes. Stop talking.
Long-awaited pilgrimage to the homeland of my mother's people, which is Calabria in southern Italy, where I had never been before. And actually went to the village where my mom's peeps come from, up in the mountains of Calabria. And there had always been some family lore, which was taken sort of half seriously, that we had Saracen or Moorish roots.
Saracen literally means black. If you remember the movie, The Warriors. The movie The Warriors came from a book, and I actually read that book. And the movie is a little bit different from the book, because in that book, you know, there's what was her name? Mercy, the chick that ended up going with Swan, or went with them back to the to Coney Island. In the book, they actually gangbanged her. All right. So it was a little bit different. And in the book, they were all Judites. The movie, they decided to bring in, make it more ethnic and bring other people into it and all, etc. And one of the gangs was called the Saracens. The Saracens, and even in the movie, they talked about how the Jones Street Boys are right next to the Saracens. No one is wasting anyone. The Saracens were a group of Moors, of so-called Negroes, Israelites, all right, in the ancient world. Okay, just so you know. You see that word Saracen, that's talking about a Moor, a Morisco, a Jew, a Moreno.
On the Italian side, Italian on my mom's side and Jewish on my dad's side, Ashkenazic on my dad's side. So when I actually met my
he already admitted that his father also had Moorish ancestry, okay, and he said it is on his father's side he's Ashkenazi. Well, you remember, according to the scriptures, even though he actually may be an Israelite, but factually, just to explain that, we just go to Numbers. And this is more so for new people that may be watching, which is what these videos are about. Because the people have been watching and learning, and my elder brother, they know all this stuff. This is Numbers 1 and 18. And it simply reads, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. So what this is explaining to you is that when Israel declares a pedigree, they are declaring it by their fathers, not their mothers. A woman does not determine the nationality of her child. The father's seed is already a bloodline, already a people, already a race. All right. Even if the mother is not of the same race, same seed line. Right. That's the seed line that's being put into her, and that's the seed line that's coming back out. A woman's job is to nourish and bring forth the seed that's put in her. All right. Her race has nothing to do with it. When that seed went into her, it was already a seed. It was already a race. It was already a life. Right. So it says, and they assembled all the congregations together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So to make that correction, make that absolute information known.
My distant relatives in this village up in the mountains in Calabria, I found that, in fact, what had merely been sort of a rumor and family lore on this side of the Atlantic in New York City was well known in the actual village. I'm not going to reveal the name of the village. Up in the mountains in Calabria, that yes, in fact, this village had been built by the...
Hold on. I just realized that when you looking at the books that he got out, look, he's got... Hold on. Let me get my... I hate it when people come behind me and move and touch my stuff. Hold on. This my pointer is missing. Where's my pointer? There it is. Right there. Not only does he have the Jews of Khazaria right above it, he had Arthur Koestler. So, and I can't tell what this one is. I can't read the top book. So this guy is very well aware that, you know, that there's a fraud being perpetrated, that Ezekiel 36:5, that Edomites are in the land of the Lord, calling themselves the people of the Lord. That means he's very well aware of that. And that being Jewish is a religion of and a bunch of people that converted to the following the ways of the Bible and follow the Talmud, and not really the Bible. The Talmud is really the book of worship. The Bible is the front, so that they actually get hide behind the Bible to pretend that they're actually of Jacob when they're actually of Jacob's brother Esau.
Been built by the Moors, and that
wait, hold on.
Of course, in this period,
he just said that this town in Sicily was built by the Moors. Well, the Moors built, conquered, ruled Sicily for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Village, I'm not going to reveal the name of the village, up in the mountains in Calabria, that yes, in fact, this village had been built by the Moors, and that been one of course, in this period, everybody knows about the glories of Al-Andalus, which was the great Moorish kingdom and in fact the Moorish Caliphate.
So if you remember the movie, the scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, True Romance, before the Italian mafia guys got mad and put, Christopher Walken put Dennis Hopper to death, Dennis Hopper reminded him of his nigger heritage, that he was an eggplant, that the Moors did so much fucking that they turned blonde hair, blue eyes to brown hair, brown eyes. So, yeah, so the majority of those Italians from Sicily are actually scattered Israelites. Point blank, period. There's no argument. All right, and if you've been around them, they act like they niggas.
In Spain during the same period, well, this period being what was the so-called Dark Ages in Europe. Well, during this during these same
he
centuries,
said so-called Dark Ages. This guy's knows, man. All right, because what would they call it? It was called the Dark Ages because dark people were ruling. That's what it comes down to. How you can just have all this information from Rome, and the first BC, the year 1 and then all of a sudden you just forget everything. Then all of a sudden no one could read or write and everything was just gone. Only people who couldn't read and write anymore was the Edomites, who upon their belly that they went. The curses kicked in. All right, the curse of Cain kicked in. All right, and they became brutish. They were forced up into the Caucasus Mountains, lost language. And the what's the movie Quest for Fire? That was them, the wildlings, the wild men. They like to try to mix Viking history with the wild men. That's what Esau does. He whitewashes and lies about history. The Vikings were not white, by the way. Neither were the Brits, the Scots, or the Irish.
There's also a Moorish kingdom in Sicily, which was actually loyal to the Fatimid Caliphate based in Egypt, which adhered to the heretical Ismaili schism of Shiite Islam, heretical, quote unquote. So, and they established certain footholds on the Italian mainland. And the southernmost region of the Italian mainland, of course, is Calabria. It's the toe of the boot, so to speak. And it seems that the village where my mom's peeps came from had in fact been one of these...
My mom's peeps. Yeah, this dude. Uh-huh.
Moorish strongholds which had been established on the mainland of Italy, from the Moorish kingdom in Naples with its capital at Palermo, until as my relatives there put it, the armies of Constantinople came in and destroyed the old village and built the new village, when the new village being over 1,000 years old. So, which is the village which they still live in today, which is just across the river.
And though, you know, that still was Jake ruling at that time.
From the old village, and you can still see the ruins of the old village. So I began to realize that yes, in fact, I do in fact have legitimate Moorish roots on my mom's side, and I would argue.
So I'm gonna assume the book he took off the top was a book about the Moors, the so-called Negroes, who were Israelites. The Moors were Israelites that converted to Islam, some by choice, others at the edge of a sword. Nevertheless, that's all it was.
That well, I became more and more aware of Moorish roots on my Ashkenazic side as well.
See that?
More in a generalized sense.
And since his father's on the Ashkenazi side, if it's through his father's line, that makes this dude a Jake, man.
As opposed to a specific sense, as on the Italian side. But, for starters, whether or not you believe, and this is a point of a great deal of controversy, whether or not you believe that the contemporary Eastern European Jews, the Ashkenazim, are in fact the descendants of the ancient Hebrews.
And they are not. They're converts, all right? And in the 1830s, they began coming over to the America and taking over all the things that the Sephardim, the actual Judites, the Israelites, had set up here in the American and the Western world. And they took it all over, and now they claim to be them and the Ashkenazim, and, you know, and then they've lied about DNA and everything else. That's why it's illegal to take a DNA test in the state of Israel. In case you didn't know that, you can look that up for yourself. All right, because the DNA results would not come back as as they would like it to
In a literal genetic sense. Well, to me that strikes me as a rather irrelevant question. Clearly, there has been a continuous cultural transmission.
Yeah, a serious continual cultural transmission. So let's go to this next video. Here, Timbuktu, and this is called Timbuktu UNESCO, and that's actual wall in Timbuktu, which actually goes back to the 11th century, proving that there were castles and stone buildings all throughout Africa. But you would never know that because contemporary Edomite whitewash history just want to show you grass huts and all that sort of thing, and it turns out that there were huge castles and libraries, and Timbuktu was a center of learning of the whole world in the 11th century. All of your so-called, everyone was coming there. All the Arabs, people that were living in Western Asia, everyone was coming to Timbuktu to learn, which is why they make it sound like it's some mythical place that really didn't exist or in the middle of nowhere. But Timbuktu is actually real, and it's set in modern day Mali, which is in Western Africa, which is where the bulk of or a huge amount of the Judeans actually fled to. Okay. So let us while you're looking at that wall, I'm gonna pull up, darn, I had it, a short video that's a couple minutes long. I'm just gonna play, and I do believe it's Maya Angelou who's narrating. And this is on Instagram. So without any further ado, Miss Maya Angelou on Timbuktu, the lost city of Timbuktu.
About 1,000 years ago, in the country of Mali, there was a city, Timbuktu. Timbuktu is still there. But 1,000 years ago, there was a university in Timbuktu. Scholars from all over the world, scholars from Asia, from Europe, everywhere came there to study.
Europe and Asia is the same place, by the way.
Africana in the 1400s that the king of university in Timbuktu, scholars from all over the world, scholars from Asia, from Europe, everywhere came there to study. It was said by Leo Africanus in the 1400s that the king of Timbuktu, of that area, gave monies to scholars. Now, maybe we're seeing a case of the first scholarship there. I don't know. But it was also said by Ibn Battuta, an Arab explorer, that more monies were spent on manuscripts coming from the Barbary, manuscripts from Spain and about. More monies were spent there in that kind of trade than on anything else in Timbuktu. We hear the word Timbuktu and think immediately that it's a word made up to explain the difference or the distance between the known and the unknown. Timbuktu is still there today. Unfortunately, the biting sands of the Sahara have covered those walls of the old university, nearly covered them, and covered the streets where scholars used to go. But you can still go if you take your time and your money to go to Mali. At Ouagadougou, here in Upper Volta, it's the capital of Upper Volta. Many people think the sounds are so un-Western. They hit our ears with a kind of strange feeling. Well, that's true. But the sounds sound like the languages of Africa, which are always rhythmic and certainly tonal. Now, it would be interesting, I think, for a student of African history to trace the Benin sculpture. The Benin sculpture in Nigeria has influenced European art. Modigliani, Braque, Picasso have admitted, I don't mean to imply that they had to admit, but they have said, in fact, that their art, that the new art that they devised in the early 1900s was influenced by the Benin and the Yoruba sculpture.
Now, in Benin, where castles like this there were strongholds called Fort Judah and Fort Levi, proving the existence that the Israelites were there, and they were the ones who got brought into captivity and brought here to the Americas and to the islands and scattered abroad from there. So let's end this with a scripture. All right, let's bring this to an end as this Shabbat is coming to an end. Here we go. I want looks like it's frozen here. Okay. Here we go. Second Ezra 6, 27, 28. And it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared." And it's really hurting the feelings of, of Esau, Edom. All right, that all their lies are crumbling. All right, being swallowed up like these great walls and universities and libraries were swallowed up by the desert in Timbuktu. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Out Shai Bahasham Bakaha Kwadash Kwam Yasarala Abba Babal.